Welcome everybody, and thank you for joining our LinkedIn Live event today. Today we will present a new product. It's going to be an exciting one. Make sure to stay online and it will be worth of your time. I'm Klaus, I'm the EVP of the Life Science business here at Tecan, and I have the pleasure to be your host today. If you have any questions at any point during this event, please feel free to ask your questions by using the chat functions below. It should be at the lower end of the screen. And we will have a great team on standby that will help answering all your questions. So, I really feel privileged today to be here, and share this moment with you. When you see all the blood, sweat and tears, all the hard work of your colleagues come together to make an idea come to life. So I would like also to use the opportunity now to say sincerely thank you to everybody involved in this joint effort and to bring this product to life. So now let's have a look at it. What is it? It's called MagicPrep NGS, and it will change the way you do next generation sequencing library prep. For those of you who have done manual DNA and RNA sequencing library prep before, you know what that means. Doing that work, it's normally tedious, it's error prone, it's a work that can be frustrating. If you realize after hours or even days preparing that there was a pipetting error somewhere at the beginning, that's definitely not a good moment, because you need to go over and start everything again. And there are so many excellent scientists out there, right, who should not lose, time on such procedures, but should spend their time on driving research and advancing what we're doing. So we set out to solve this problem. Our goal was to replace the frustrating NGS library prep process with the simple press of a button system. And I will show you what I mean. If I can get something, here's one and two, great catch. It's those things here, you recognize it immediately. Those are coffee capsules, and they work very, very simple. You take it, you put it in, you press a button, and what you get is a ready-made coffee, always the same quality, but without having to first accurately grind and weigh the coffee, adjust the water pressure, and. It always works, almost like a little magic. And merging the best in smart automation technology with the careful design chemistry of our reagents, we have created a new way preparing NGS libraries. And if there are, three items you should take away from our conversation today, it's library prep that just works, right? Second, it's really just 10 minutes that it takes to get the instrument going. You put the reagents in, you put in your samples, and off you go after 10 minutes. And it has no installation, no scripting, no master mixes, just magic. And here it is. You talk, we listen. It's no coincidence that the MagicPrep NGS system came to life. Right? So often we have heard from you, from our customers, how tedious library preparation is, how much time is lost that could be used much more valuable, right? We empower labs, right, so that they can become more efficient, and this is a great way how to do it. But listening to our customers is where it all began, right? So now let's listen to somebody who has already been using, our system out there and what their experiences are. Here we go. So we're very excited to have Chris with us. Although many of us already know him, and he has also made a name for himself with so many projects and collaborations on current topics, I would still like to say a few introductory words about him. Chris is a professor at Cornell University, a member of the tri-institutional program at Cornell, Sloan and Rockefeller University, and he also teaches at Harvard Medical School. Further, he's a director of WorldQuant, an initiative that merges state-of-the-art molecular profiling with predictive financial algorithms to advance precision medicine. Chris's lab is a leader in functional genomics, working with government institutions to develop internationally quality standards for genomic measurements. Right? As such, They have also been instrumental in supporting global efforts to study COVID variations and understand the spread of the virus worldwide. We have posted a full bio in the chat if you want to learn about more about Chris and his work. But first of all, Chris, welcome. It's such a pleasure to have you here.
Thanks, Klaus. It's really a pleasure to be here, and glad to take the opportunity to talk about the Magic Prep system, the Magic Prep NGS, which we had early access to in our laboratory to be one of the first testers of it outside of Tecan. So happy to be here.
Great. So, Chris, what are your initial thoughts about the Magic Prep NGS systems? What is your lab saying about it?
The lab saying really great things. They loved it because it was very simple in terms of setup, as well as training, and also the instrument, its layout. It's very compact, so it fits on, just a small part of a bench and right on the bench top. And then it also was just really easy to set up the run. So it took about, getting it set up and installed, and trained it was about 30 minutes, and then we're trained. So training is really short. It's something that takes sometimes longer to eat a burrito than to get trained on the machine. And in this case, we were fully trained. And then also setting up the runs took about 10 minutes. So you could set up either a DNA sequencing prep run or RNA-seq prep run. It just takes about 10 minutes. And then you basically push the button and then go, and then you can walk away, completely walk away. So you can just come back at the end of the day and your libraries are made.
Great, thanks. Yeah, I think that's great to hear. So, how do you think the Magic Prep NGS system will kind of impact the research that you're doing, Chris?
I think the impact will be really helpful for obviously just removing that time to manually prepare libraries. It just get rid of a lot of tedious and manual work. And so, depending on the application, making a library could be a few hours, it could be 4 to 5 hours, but it could sometimes be 2 or 3 day protocols. Sometimes we have very complex protocols that take much longer. And so while you're doing that, you have to continually be focused on the task at hand. You have to be working on normalization, bead cleanup, essentially being careful pipetting. And when you're doing that workflow, I have amazing people in the lab, and they're doing great work, but then they're doing that great work, but can't do other things. They can't do other experimental work or other work in the lab. And so, getting rid of these repetitive tasks means that they can start to do other experiments, even more, sometimes more interesting experiments, because at this point, the rote and simple mechanical process of prepping libraries is something that is really amenable to automation. So this really frees up the lab to do other experiments, and it also actually reduces the possibility of errors because it's the same instrument running the same protocol, so it reduces batch effects as well.
Great, thanks. So thanks for that comment. Comparing to the effort we put in to make the Magic Prep simple to use, right? Also, reliability was a key element of that. So how does that resonate with you?
Yeah, that's key because the systematic and reproducible results from a machine make it so that you can really rely on getting the results and having them be the same. But really, most importantly, many samples we have are irreplaceable. They are samples taken from an astronaut on only this one particular mission, or from the space station, or from a very rare cancer where the patient has died and we only have a little bit of tissue left. And so in some cases, this is the last chance that we'll get to look at some of these samples from a genetic profiling perspective, and this really makes it that reliability is key. And we saw, the first plates we were running, 8 out of 8 of the libraries look good, and the other libraries also running, we were seeing RNA and DNA prep libraries working well. It was really great to see that reliability.
Great. So the Magic Prep NGS system processes 8 samples per run. Does it align with your research, or what do you think about it?
Yes, so 8 samples is perfect for when you have you need to get some samples prepped, or you're doing a pilot set of experiments. Often when we're starting a clinical trial or doing preliminary work, we just have a handful of samples that we're starting with. So what's good about this, though, is even though it's 8 samples at a time, the DNA prep, for example, is about 5 hours. So you could, one run, and then start another one before you go home for the day. So you can really do pretty easily 16 in a day if it's DNA. And the RNA, you could, if you time it right, you could get close to that because it's about 10 hours for the prep. And so this means, if you can, start with pilot projects or do 16 or 24 samples within a day and a half, really. And so, if you're looking at systems where you need to do 384 samples at a time, these are much bigger robots we have. But this really fills the niche where we need to do a quick prep on a very select set of samples, and we need the libraries, right away. So what would be great is you can, take 10 minutes, set up the sample, get the libraries prepped, and then put it on the sequencer all within the same day. Get the results back in the morning. So it's really, getting us to 24-hour from sample all the way to analytics, which is great.
Right. So, Chris, your lab is known, right, for really dealing with some very special samples, right? You're collecting swabs from subways all over the world. You're collecting, samples out of space. So, what kind of samples, have you tested with the MagicPrep NGS system?
A good range of samples. Yeah. So my lab focuses on clinical genetics and computational biology, and also some cell engineering and even microbiome engineering questions. But this includes, the engineering of microbes includes monitoring how they change and really diverse ecosystems, such as subway systems, space stations, hospital settings. We've also do a lot of work in cancer genetics and epigenetics. So we looked at some RNA-seq samples that we and some of those protocols that we use for cancer samples, and also metagenomic samples. So these are controls that we've used that are titrated microbial standards, so we know exactly what's in them, and also prep those on the system so we can see that we're getting really faithful representation of the species that are present, and we saw that the libraries look good. So we so far it's actually worked on every sample type that we've tried. So now I'm actually really curious to push the system and try some more peculiar samples, and to push the input maybe lower than 10 nanograms, or see how low we can push it. Knowing, of course, it's a risk to go lower, but I think the system works very reproducibly and on every sample that we've tried so far. So it's been really adaptable that way.
Cool. That's great to hear, Chris. Thanks a lot. It's very exciting, right, to hear you talk about the instruments. What you can do, and how it helped. To advance also your research. There are a lot more questions that came up from the audience. We will now also invite some more of our colleagues, some members from your lab, but also some people from our side to join us for an additional Q&A session.
Wonderful.
So we're now into the Q&A session. As you can see, we have more members now joining the respective event. I'm glad that we have Ashesh joining us. Ashesh is the product manager for the MagicPrep NGS system here at Tecan. Welcome, Ashesh, and thanks for taking the time to be part of this today. And we also have two lab members from Chris's lab joining today. Chris, you want to quickly introduce your team?
Happy to. So I'm really honored to have two members of the lab who lead much of the work that I just described, as well as all sorts of other projects. So Krista Ryan and Namita Damle, who direct a lot of the research in the lab, and also we're playing with the MagicPrep system and other Tecan systems.
Great, thanks for being available and being part of the event today. I have a list of questions here that came together, and maybe I directly start with you and your team, Chris. So there was a question around, what is the biggest advantage that you see for the MagicPrep over other automation platforms?
I think the biggest advantage is really that it's easy and it's fast. It's kind of like what you want when you want a coffee. You want it to come right away and taste good. In this case, I don't know, that's not the best metaphor, but it was very fast. And so I really would I defer to Namita and or Krista to describe their experience, but it was really about 10 minutes. And the training was also very short. So maybe Namita led them in the training. What do you think, Namita, on how it went?
I agree. When Ashish came in to train us on the MagicPrep, it was a really short training, much shorter than what we expected. And the machine itself was really compact, which is great because it does not take up too much bench space. Other than that, the hands-on time was really short, which is about 10 minutes. And I think one of the really cool things that we thought about MagicPrep NGS was that it holds your samples after the library prep is done. So you don't have to be really about in the vicinity immediately to retrieve them, which is super advantageous because you can do other stuff at the bench. And the I guess the pilot produced really consistent readings, which was another advantage.
Great, thanks, thank you. Another question that came in, probably more for Ashesh to take, is can other chemistry be used on the Magic Prep NGS system, Ashesh?
So the short answer is no. Right now, it uses proven chemistry from Tecan.
Okay, great. Thanks. Precise and short. So I think maybe to add, on that one is that's how the system was, designed at this point. That's why you have this high level of reliability. That's why there is this, super ease of use around the system. What's going to happen now going forward in terms of additional new chemistries coming online? Stay with us. I think we will make, some more announcements throughout the year. Another question that came up was, does the system use technology such as electrowetting or microfluidics? Ashesh, you want to take that one?
Sure. No, the system doesn't use electrowetting or microfluidics. We use a mixture of novel and proven technology. For example, we use a pipetting module for all the liquid transfers. We use a Peltier system for the incubations and the PCR steps. And we have magnets for the bead purification steps. We do have a novel reagent dispensing system that was developed specifically for this system. And this dispensing technology allows us to provide pre-aliquoted reagents. So there's no need for the user to make master mixes or even the system to kind of aliquot all your reagents as you do the library prep. So it's designed to be very simple. Essentially, you're just loading in these cartridge-based reagents, pushing the button, and starting your run.
Great, thanks, Rajesh. It looks like that your expertise is also needed for the next question that I have here is, what applications are available for the Magic Prep NGS and what are the input ranges?
Sure, we currently have 3 different workflows that are implemented on the Magic Prep system. One is a DNA-seq using pre-fragmented DNA. One is a DNA-seq for intact genomic DNA with enzymatic fragmentation. And then we have an mRNA-seq workflow. And all of these just start with your sample. So for example, for the mRNA-seq workflow, you just start with your total RNA, and the Magic Prep does everything, including the poly selection, the fragmentation, and library prep. For those workflows, for the DNA-seq workflows, the input range is from 50 to 500 nanograms of input. And for the mRNA-seq workflow, the input is 10 nanograms to a microgram of total input.
Great, thanks, Ashesh. Probably another question, Chris, probably for you and your team is, how satisfied are you with the data that you're getting from the Magic Prep NGS?
We've been, the satisfaction has been great because the controls set, work great. We've also tried different kinds of samples and gotten libraries. So, actually, we were just talking last night about, what we're seeing for the yields and wondering, how low we could maybe even push it. Because in some cases, well, in most cases, we did 100 nanograms. But we're thinking, could we go down to 10 or even 5 nanograms in some cases? So I'm curious for Ashesh, how low do you think we could go? We were just talking about this last night in lab. Is like, well, could we push the system further down and also try different kinds of RNA preps? So, curious, how low do you think it could go? We were going to try the system next week and see how low we could do it, but I'm curious how low you've pushed it.
So when we typically do our research, we do push it to lower input amounts than what we recommend. However, the reason we recommend what we recommend is to ensure that you have the highest quality data.
Yes.
So as you push the input down to lower inputs, data quality and the amount of data that you get does suffer.
Yeah.
So while you can push it, if that's all you have, I think that for the most amount for the best data quality, you want to use the recommended input.
Yeah, but even 10 to 100 nanograms is on the lower end of most of the preps we use. That's great to see. Right.
Cool, very good. No, we love, right, when our customers start to push, the systems and really go into, so where's the limit of where we can go. Maybe one last question, Chris, for you and your team is, how there was one question on how long does each workflow take? So once you started instrument, how long did it take?
So there, actually in here, I think Namita's run it the most. So there was the DNA ones were shorter, about 5 hours or so, and then the RNA workflow was about 10 hours. But Namita, what did you see when you ran it multiple times about that time?
The time required for the prep was really consistent. For the DNA that we ran twice, it was about 5 to 6 hours. So it gets done in your single workday. And the RNA ran overnight, so that was still shorter than the manual prep for sure.
Yeah.
Another question, Chris, for your team that came up, is the system really so simple to set up? Now I'm curious on the answer.
Yes, and actually, we were very pleasantly surprised. Actually, I might hand this off to Krista to take this one in terms of the setup and then also the ease of handling. 2 points that are key about the system. Krista, I want to take it.
Yeah, so the setup was actually very simple, and then the actual training was about 20 to 30 minutes. So other automation devices that we've worked with take hours or even days to get training, get accustomed to actually using the device. And being able to set up and use the device in under an hour is really great, especially for, we have people coming in that are volunteers, researchers that have less experience with automation. So the ease of use really eliminates any sort of error that can happen with sample handling.
And some of the protocols for other instruments, that we have in lab can be, take weeks or even sometimes months for optimizing the actual protocol. But all the protocols worked. They're just, pre-programmed. Did you have to do any modifications or any tweaking of the actual runtime protocol?
Right. No modifications were needed. The protocols are already installed in the device, and everything was really simple to use.
Great. Thanks. Thanks for the input. Maybe one final last question that came up was, what were the biggest challenges with building the MagicPrep NGS system, right? And I'm sure, Ashesh, you could, tell us, many of these stories, but maybe let me try to answer that question. It is for Tecan really, a new type of product that we are launching. We are integrating, dedicated reagents with a dedicated, instrumentation system. And I think that's what really makes it special for us. I think that's what really originates, the overall value proposition around making it so easy and being so reliable, because we have used, technologies, as Ashesh said before, that are reliable, that we know work, under nearly any circumstances, and that we have proven, for a very long time out there in the field with our, traditional technology that we have been. So it's been a journey. I'm super happy that we're here today to announce now the availability of the product. And I'm looking forward to hear many more comments and many more feedback. This now concludes our live session here at LinkedIn for the product introduction of MagicPrep NGS. A big thank you to everybody who was involved, and a big thank you to Chris and your team members for being part of this. Ashesh, thanks for your big contribution to this project. If there are additional questions, please just continue to post them. There still should be a line where you can put them in. We will take care to provide the respective answers. And with that said, check out the product. Website is live. You can schedule live demos. We are doing virtual demos, so it shouldn't take longer than a week for an instrument to be at your site. Okay. With that said, thanks everybody, and looking forward to talk to you soon.
Can NGS library preparation really just take 10 minutes to set up? Yes, and it's all thanks to MagicPrep NGS. No installation, no scripting, no master mixes. This isn't a trick. Work smarter, faster, better, easier. Less time, fewer mistakes, trusted technology, standardized results. Tired of spending hours and hours and hours manually pipetting samples? Now just pop them in and begin. Hours of work? Now just 10 minutes of hands-on time. What would you do with an extra day? Based on proven technology developed and optimized over decades, Magic makes human error a thing of the past. Because no one likes unreliable NGS library results. What do people like? A greater than 99% mean success rate. That's so good, even reviewer 2 is happy. 10 minutes is all it takes for Magic. Free up your expert. Magic Prep NGS, library prep that just works. Discover more at tecan.com/magic.